Everybody, come on.
Why on earth is thou calling? Oh, do not pass me by.
All right, come on now, come on. Call him a little louder.
Savior, why don't you hear my humble cry? But why on other side of calling? Why on other side of calling? Do not pass me by.
One more time.
Pass me not, oh gentle Savior. Pass me not, oh gentle Savior. You hear my humble cry. Why on others thou art calling? Why on others thou art calling? Do not pass me by.
Turn it up right now.
And I'm calling you, Savior. Oh, blessed Savior, why don't you hear my humble cry? And why on others thou art calling? On others thou art calling. Do not pass me by.
Come on, thank the Lord.
Hallelujah. 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 Glory to your name, Father.
Look with me in James chapter 1. James chapter 1. James chapter 1. I want to pick up where we left off. I think we've been there about 6 or 7 weeks already. But I want to pick up right there. I want to start reading at verse 5. I just want to start reading at verse 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to read that. James chapter 1. And we've been there for the last couple of weeks. Well, let me look at it with me. And remember that this is James, who was the biological brother of Jesus. And he was the head of the church at Jerusalem. And so look what he says. Look what he said. He said, if any man lack wisdom, here's how to get it. Let him ask of God. Why? That he giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given. But let him ask in faith, not wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think, don't let him dare think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. Why? double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. I want to pick up where we left off the last couple of weeks, and this particular text, experiencing scatter and finding wisdom, part 3. You may be seated. Thank you. Experiencing scatter and finding wisdom, part 3. Part 3. Part number 3. I think all of us at some time or another ask God for wisdom. Our idea or interpretation of wisdom may not be exactly what God's idea is. As a matter of fact, our idea of wisdom may not agree or coincide or line up next to James's idea of wisdom. When James writes to this church, he says that number one, they are scattered. Number two, he says they are abroad. But then he suggests to us that they're having a problem in counting, that they're having a problem in dealing with what they are going through. And I think all of us can identify with that, because all of us at some time or another have gone through something. And then even having gone through something or going through something, we've experienced some difficulty in handling it. We've experienced some difficulty in dealing with it. But this particular group that James is writing to, they're dealing with persecution. They're dealing with trials, testings. They're going through it. And it's human nature that when you are going through something, to want out, to get out of it. And usually when we're going through something, our first instinct, our first move is to ask God, have mercy. Have mercy. I mean, it just comes, it just goes without even, just a natural, no thinking about it, no question about it. Lord God, have mercy. But James suggests to us that God has designed that we go through some stuff from time to time. And that even when he designed that we go through it, that God has a purpose behind it. That God has a reason as to why he allows us to go through what it is that we go through. So here it is, this group of believers, they're going through it and they're having difficulty dealing with it, for the fact that James says to them, count it all joy. Whatever it is, James says, count it all joy. However it comes at you, James says, count it all joy. But then he piggybacks off of that, because he said, if any man lacks wisdom, suggesting that there is a connection between what they're going through and wisdom. So watch the text, because in verse 4, he says, but let patience have a perfect work. Don't stop patience, because patience is designed to help you to be perfect, to help you to be entire, and that you might lack absolutely nothing. And then he comes right back in verse 5, and he picks up on the lack, and he says, if any man lack wisdom. point number one. Point number one is, notice first of all the lack in this text. He says, if any man lack wisdom. If any man lack wisdom. And I told you that the word if is rather technical, because in the Greek it's what's called a first-class condition. And a first-class condition says that it shifts from a if to a since. So in essence, James is not saying if you lack wisdom, but he's saying you actually lack wisdom. He says, since you lack wisdom. In other words, James diagnoses the problem for them. He said the problem is you're lacking wisdom. Not if you lack it. James said, since you lack wisdom. And notice that the word he uses here in this text, if any man lack wisdom, meaning it suggests the idea of a wanting. The wanting, in ancient day, they saw the wanting and lacking different than how we see it. He's lacking, meaning there is a want there. Meant that there was a shortage, a deficiency, a shortage, a deficiency, that something is actually missing. And so James says, since there is a need, since there is a lack, since you are insufficient when it comes to wisdom, all of us at some time or another run into some situation where we lack wisdom. I mean, we may think that we are all that and then some, but life at some point will bring us to a situation that we just don't know how to handle. It will bring us to a situation that we just can't handle. But James said, if you lack wisdom, if there's a shortage in wisdom, then he says, ask God. Look again at the shortage. He said the shortage is wisdom. So what is wisdom? Yes, it's knowledge. It's knowledge, but it's more than knowledge. It's a practical skill. It's that practical skill. It's being able to do some things that you have actually practical, hands-on skill. You see, it's one thing to say, I know, but it's a different thing to do it. It's one thing, James said, you know about trials. Look at the previous verse. You know about trials. But it's one thing to know trials, but it's another thing to know how to handle them, what to do with them. And James said, when it comes to trials, you know they come. You know they happen, but you don't know how to do when they show up. Wisdom is that practical application, is that practical aspect. But then there's another story to the wisdom. Because the word he uses here, wisdom, Sophia, where we get the name Sophia from. This word for wisdom, anciently, Semitically, biblically, it carries the idea of a person being crafty, idea of a person being skilled. But even more so, it was the idea of a person being crafty, being artistic, a person having that artistic, that craftsmanship, that handiwork, that needlework. A person being skilled in some type of craft, a person being skilled in a needlework or having artistic ability. That was the initial meaning of wisdom. He was wise, he was practical, and that he knew how to build a ship. He was wise and crafty in that he had to know how the wisdom as to how to stitch something, how to sew something, how to fabricate something. That was the initial idea of wisdom. But as time moved on, it shifted from being practical to being philosophical. But James is not talking about the philosophical. James is talking about the practical. How do you handle trials when they show up? How do you handle tribulations when they show up? How do you handle difficulties when they show up? How do you handle hardship when it shows up? How do you handle the hard time, the difficulties, the problems? James said, how do you handle them when they come into your life? James says you lack the wisdom as to how to do in difficult times. When your back is up against the wall, James says there's a lack. But now watch the list. Watch the list. Because James said if you lack wisdom, he says what you need to do is ask God. Watch the asking, because asking here is really a picture of prayer. If there's a shortage of wisdom in your life, James says, instead of going to all these different folk, he says, ask God. It's a picture of not only requesting something, not only inquiring, but it's a picture of prayer. James says, if there's a shortage, a deficiency, a lack of wisdom in your life, James says, ask God. Well, why should I ask God? Well, number one, I should ask God because he gives wisdom. One of the first times we see the word wisdom shows up in the book of Exodus is God who's handing out the wisdom. Exodus chapter 28, God said, look, he said, I gave them wisdom. I put the wisdom in them. I filled them with wisdom. He said, ask God, because God is the one who gives wisdom. But look at it again, because I said that it's point number 2. Point 1 was the lack. Point 2 is the list. So let me show you the list. He says, since there's a shortage for wisdom, and you need wisdom, he said, let me give you a list of things to do as to how to get wisdom. Let me give you the list. Here's the list. Watch the list. You got to pay attention. Watch the list. Look, if you know, see the list in the verse. Look at the verse. See the list. He said, if you lack wisdom, then he says, ask God, but when you ask in faith. He said, if you lack the wisdom, he said, ask God, but the condition is, the prerequisite is that when you ask, you got to ask in faith. Now, I hate to disappoint you, but there's only one thing on the list. I hate to disappoint you. There's not two things, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 things to do to get wisdom. It's not 3 things to get wisdom. It's the one thing to get wisdom. And James says, ask God, but the condition is when you ask, you have to ask in faith. Now, to me, it only just makes sense that the key word there, the key word in that phrase, ask in faith, that the key word is in. I-N. The key word is in. Ask in faith. It's just the idea of a means by which you get what you're trying to get. It's just the idea of a manner by which you get what you're trying to get. A means and a manner by which you get what you need. James says, since you need faith, since you are short on faith, James said, ask in faith. Faith is, to be brief, it's trust. Faith is trusting God. Faith is believing in God. It's that steadfast, firm, secure, immovable position. Because the word in suggests the idea of a position. The word in suggests the idea of being in a fixed position. He says, ask in faith. Ask. He said, in other words, he said, look, you got to have faith when you ask God. You have to be firm, solid, secure, stable in your trust of God, in your belief of God, in your relying on God when you ask. Meaning that when you ask God, you can't be all willy-nilly as to whether or not you believe in him. When you ask, you have to be completely, absolutely sold out. I trust God. I believe in God. I'm asking because I believe in God. I'm asking because I trust in God. One of the things this word he uses here, faith, suggests is that it suggests two things. It suggests, number one, the idea of a nurturing. It suggests the idea of a nurturing or a nursing. A nurturing or a nursing. Nurturing or nursing. And that James said that when you ask God, then the condition is, the prerequisite is, you have to be convinced, you got to be persuaded, you got to be absolutely sure that you trust God, because he's the one that has been nursing you. He's the one that has been nurturing you, and he's been nursing and nurturing through everything that you've been through, that God was the one. You can't ask God and at the same time be taking credit for what you've done. You got to be sold out, absolutely sure that I am where I am because God brought me here. I trust God that if he did it for me before, he'll do it again. I trust God that if he showed up in the past, that he'll show up again. I'm relying on him. I'm dependent on him. So James said, that's when you ask God, when you are sold out, that he'll do it. Look at the list. There's only one thing on the list. But then, not only the lack in the list, but look at the third thing here in the text. The third thing is the like. Watch the text. It's right here in the text. Watch the text. It's here, right here in the text. He says, number one, he says, it's only one thing on the list. Ask in faith. That's all that's on the list. He did the shortage is that you're short on faith. The lack, the list, but then look at the like. The like. Watch the like. Watch the like. Look with me at verse number 6. Verse number 6. Watch what it says in 6. He says, but let him ask, what's the condition? In faith. What's on the list? Faith. But now watch what it says. He says, nothing wavering. Nothing wavering. The word nothing means exactly what it says. It means nothing. It means not one single thing. Absolutely, positively, nothing. But watch what he said. Watch what he said. He says, nothing wavering. Now notice that the wavering connects back to the previous faith. Because faith is trusting. Faith is being immovable. And then he comes back, he says, nothing wavering. Nothing wavering. Not one thing wavering. But notice the word he uses here for wavering, because the word wavering suggests the idea of a person who is split right down the middle. Half of him on this side, half of him on this side. His brain split down the middle. Half of the brain on this side, half of the brain on this side. His heart split down the middle. Half his heart over here and half his heart over here. His thinking split down the middle. Half his thinking on this side and half his thinking on that side. James says, don't be divided. Don't be separated. Don't be split in two. Don't be cut in two when you're asking. In other words, I told you that the asking is a picture of prayer. James says, when you pray, don't be split in half while you're praying. Don't be divided when you're praying. Well, Lord, I'm asking you to do this, and so if you would help me through this, and then on the other hand, you're saying, well, I don't know if the Lord going to do that or not. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if the Lord will do that. Well, Lord, I don't know. Or you're asking God to fix it for you. Then on the other hand, you're like, well, Lord, I think I can handle that. I think that you're asking God to do it for you. So, nah, well, I think I can do it. You're split because in one prayer, you asking God to handle it. And in the next prayer, you're saying to yourself, I think I can do this. James said, don't be divided. Don't be split. Don't be doubting in your prayer. Don't be vacillating, going back and forth. James said it's not a rocking moment where you're rocking back and forth with it. James said when you ask, you need to be firm in your stand. I'm asking God because I trust that God will do it. Don't be questioning as to whether or not God can do it. You got to know that he can do it. Don't question whether or not he can supply it. You got to know that he can supply it because he supplied it for you before. James says, don't come doubting, not to God. Now come believing. You got to come trusting because you know God can do it. You know, in social media, they have a little thing, they call it like. Hit this and like me. Touch this and like me. Like me. You text something, hey, like me. It's a little thumb up. But let me say that James is not saying thumbs up. He is not saying thumbs up. Let me show it to you. Look at the verse again. He said, let him ask of God in faith, nothing wavering. Then watch what he said. He said, no wavering, no doubting, no being split. For he that wavereth, there it is like a wave of the sea driven with the wind and tossed. He says, when you come to God, half-stepping, half believing, other half wondering if he can, half believing that he'll answer your prayer, other half believing he might not answer it. James says, when you come to God with that, he said, you are just like. And the word like suggests the idea of a similarity, a resemblance. He said, let me show you what you look like to God when you come to God halving. He that wavereth is like a wave of the sea that's driven with the wind and being tossed around. James says, when you come to God half-hearted, half-minded, half-thinking, half-believing, half-trusting, and a few more halves added in, James said, when you come to God with that, you're just like being blown by the wind and tossed about. Look at it. Look at this, because I don't know, that may be your situation. You may have had some moments when you were going through some things and you couldn't understand why God didn't help. You couldn't understand why God didn't answer. You can understand, but James said could be because you were not totally committed to what you was asking. Could be because you were not totally committed to what you was looking for God to do. I wanted God to make a way out of no way, but I wasn't committed to doing what it would take for God to do it. I wanted God to open a door for me, but I wasn't committed to doing what it would take for God to open the door. I wanted God to give me a fresh start in life, but I wasn't committed to stop doing some things that it would take to get a fresh life. James said when you come to God, have, divided, separated, doubting, either you're just like a man, a wave of the sea, just like someone who's wavering. But let me show you this real quickly. He says in this verse, the latter part of this verse, he said, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Have you ever noticed the waves out on the sea? Have you ever gone out on the seawall and just spend time watching the water? Sometimes you drive up and there are no waves. Complete calm. No move. Nothing's moving. Just still waters. And then sometimes you go out and the waves are rolling, moving. And then sometimes you go out and the waves are really moving. They have flags out there that help you to determine when the water is safe, when it's unsafe, because of the waves. Watch what James says. James says, when you're doubting, unsettled, no faith, lacking, James says, then you're like a wave that's being driven by the wind. Watch this. James says the wind is in control. The wind's in control. The waves have no control. James says the wind is in control. That the waves are at the wind's mercy. That when the wind blows, the wave goes. You don't ever look out on the water and see winds and waves fighting. Because the waves say, no, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And the waves say, yeah, you going, whether you want it or not, you going. James says that at that point in life, when we're not really trusting God, when we're doubting God, and we're still asking God to do things, but yet we're not completely on board that we're in that particular point, James says you're out of control. You just lost control. And the winds of adversity are in control. Let me show you. Notice three things about the wind, then I'm going to move from this point. Three things about the wind. Number one, if next time, just notice, wind is invisible. Out of all the years you've been living, I don't think you can write down a single day that say I saw the wind. But you can say I saw the effects of the wind. Even when they say there's a storm out in the Atlantic, a storm out in the Gulf, and they're going to send some planes in to check it out, they're not seeing the wind. They're seeing the effects of the wind. The clouds moving, the waves, the waters, they're seeing the effects of it. But number two, not only is wind invisible, but wind is uncontrollable by man. There's not one of us who could walk out there on that sea, on that beach, and say to the wind, stop. Sit down. Be still. Not one of us who can dictate terms to the wind. James says that when you are going through things and you're lacking the wisdom and you're lacking the faith, James says it's like you have no control. But what's the third thing? It's invisible, it's uncontrollable, but it can be beneficial or it can be destructive. Wind. The same wind that back in the day when you hang your clothes out on the clothesline, the wind would blow them dry. The same wind back in the day when they would harvest grain and they would go out on the threshing field and they would toss the grain in the air and the wind would catch the trash and blow the trash away and allow the grain to fall back. That same wind that brings in a cool breeze on a hot summer day when you're laying in the bed in the window, you got the window raised up to feel the cool breeze when it blows. That same wind that cools you, that same wind uproots trees and drops them on top of a house. That same wind rips the roof off homes. That same wind destroys families. That same wind. It can be beneficial or it can be destructive. James says that when you come to God and you're not completely, and you're not all in, James says you're wavering like a wind. I told you that when you look at this, you see the lack, you see the list, you see the like, but let me show you the loss real quickly. Let me show you the loss. Look at verse 7. He says, for let not that man, watch the specificity. He that let not that man. What man? The man who's wavering. What man? The one who's not stable. What man? The one that's being blown by the wind. What man? The one that's caught up in the waves. What man? He said, that man. The one whose head is divided, whose heart is divided, whose mind is divided, whose thinking is divided. He said, let not that man think he should get anything from the Lord. That's a sad situation. That's a sad situation, because when you come to the Lord and you're divided on what you're asking for, you're divided as whether or not you trust God. James says the sentence has already been pronounced, the verdict is already in, zero, nothing. But notice the negativity, because he says not wavering, and then he says not anything from the Lord. Look at this test. I just want to suggest to you that when we come to God and we're not all in on our prayer, we're not all in on what we're asking God to do. When we come to God and we're divided, we're wavering, we're doubting, we're vacillating, going back and forth. When we come to God with that, then your situation has already been predetermined for you. James says, don't let him think that he shall receive anything. And what scares me about this word receive is that it suggests the idea of receiving a blessing from God. God says James said you've already suffered loss because God won't bless it. James said you've already suffered loss because God will not bless when you come in doubting and not believing. But then notice that God is the source. So you come to the source and you come unprepared when you come to the source. Well, let me end this here. Let me end it here. He talks about the lack, the list, the like, the loss. Here's the last thing real quickly. Notice the limitation. Look at the limitation. Open your eye for just 1 minute. Peep out the corner of your eye for just 1 minute. And watch what he says. And notice what he says in verse 8. He He's already said, don't be double-minded. Meaning, don't be wavering. Don't be rocking and rolling back and forth. And then watch what he says in verse 7. He said, that man who rocks back and forth, who goes back and forth, he said, don't let him think he's going to get anything from God. But watch how he deals with it in verse 8. He said, a double-minded man, a wavering man, a rocking back and forth kind of man. He said that man is unstable in all of his ways. James says he's already caught up in the wind. James says he's already being tossed and driven by the winds of adversity, the winds of uncertainty. James says he's already tossing back and forth. He's already being moved back and forth. He's already out of control. He's already lost control, and circumstances are controlling him. James said that man is unstable before the Lord. Two things real quickly from this verse. The word that used is double-minded. I told you, it has the idea of a person who is two-souled. Two souls, two souls, two spirits, two minds, two souls, two spirits. Watch what he said. He said, a man who has two minds, a man who has two souls, a man who has two spirits, he said that kind of man is unstable before the Lord. Watch what he said, watch what he said, watch what he said, watch what he said. He says when he comes before God, and he comes in split-minded, split-hearted, don't know whether or not he really wants God to do what he's asking him to do, not sure he really wants God to answer what he's asking him to do. James said that kind of man is shifty. That kind of man is unsettled. That kind of man lacks steadfast. He said that kind of man is unstable. But watch what he says. Watch what he says. I'm finishing. Watch what he says. He says he's unstable. Not in some of his ways. Not in some of his deeds. Not in some of his lifestyle things. But James says he's unstable in all of his ways. Meaning, he's unstable in his walk, he's unstable in his talk, he's unstable in his relationship, he's unstable in his decision, he's unstable in his prayer. There's a limitation because he's unstable. But James suggests to us that what this man needs is that this man needs an anchor. This man needs to have an anchor because he has instability. He's been blown by the wind. He's been tossed by the wind. He's been pushed around by the wind. James suggests what he needs, that he needs an anchor. May I suggest to someone sitting here this morning, somebody listening on Facebook or YouTube, who's experiencing some winds in life, feels like you've been blown from one thing to another, feel like you've been tossed and driven by the winds and the waves, feel like you've been moved from one side to the other, feel like there's some wind blowing against you. Let me suggest what you need is that you need an anchor. Somebody to anchor you right where you are. Doug Miller used to sing a song when he was alive. He used to sing a song, though the storms keeps on raging in my life. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell the night from the day. That's being tossed and driven. Still the hope, that's the faith that lies within is reassured. He said, I keep my eye upon the distant shore. I know, that's faith, I know. I'm not wavering. He said, I know. I'm not rocking, I know. I'm not unstable. He said, I know he'll lead me safely to that blessed place. Doug said, you got to be faithful. You got to be strong. You got to be stable. Can rock back and but got to have that anchor. Got to have that anchor. James says, there's only one thing on the list, and that's faith. He said, but you can be like a wave that's being tossed and driven. He said, but the loss is on you. There's a limitation. And it all starts because there's a lack in your life. Gracious Father, thank you that for every lack, for every shortage, you've got a supply. So, Father, I pray that if there's someone sitting here this morning who's lacking in any area of their life, I pray, oh God, that when they open it up to you, that they'll open it up trusting and believing that you're able to meet the need. That whatever they are lacking, whatever they are short of, I pray, oh God, that they'll trust you to be the supply, that you can supply the need, that you can fill the need. I pray, Father God, if it's peace of mind, that they'll trust you to be peace in the midst of a storm. If it's finances, I pray that they'll trust you to speak to their finances. If it's friendship, relationship, I pray that they'll trust you to help them to make the right decision. I pray, oh God, that they not be unstable, but they be steadfast and unmovable. I pray this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Come on, stand with him for just a moment. Stand with him for just a minute. Stand with him for just a minute. Stand with him just a minute. Maybe there's somebody here this morning who have not come to the point of accepting Jesus as personal Savior. But maybe you've come to the point of accepting him as personal Savior. Maybe the deal is that you just need a church home. Just need a place of worship.
Still that a hope that lies within is reassured as I keep my eyes upon the distant shore. I know he'll lead me safely to that blessed place he has prepared. But if the storms don't cease, and if the winds keep on blowing, my soul has been anchored in the Lord. Though the storms keep on raging in my life, and sometimes it's hard to tell the night from day. Still that hope that lies within is reassured as I keep my eyes upon the distant shore. I know he'll lead me safely to that blessed place he has prepared.
All right, let's get ready to come with our gifts. Get ready to come with our gifts. When you came in the door, I know they gave you a white envelope. I know they did. I know they did. They gave you a white envelope. I know they gave you a white envelope. Didn't give me one, but I know they gave you one. They gave you a white envelope. Gave you a white envelope. And the white envelope is for the portion of our tithe that we give for the upkeep of the church. The white envelope is for what we give back to God, that which we give for the upkeep of our church. So whatever you're going to give for the upkeep of our church, whatever you're going to give for that portion of your tithe, and place that in the white envelope, and then place that in the gray basket when you come around. This is what I'm giving for the upkeep of my church. This is what I'm giving for the upkeep of the church. White envelope, gray basket. And the Bible reminds us that God promises to open up the windows of heaven and pour. And he says that he won't be stingy in his pouring. He'll pour until it runs over. But then when you came in the door, they gave you a pink envelope. And the pink envelope is for the portion of our tithe we give for the upkeep of ministry, what we give in support of ministry. And Paul says in Philippians that God shall supply all of my need. And that applies to what you share with the preacher, the pastor, the teacher. That's what that verse is there for. It is to encourage giving and partnering with the ministry. That Paul says God shall supply all of your need. God speaks to need. When he feeds, he supplies the need, all right? So, whatever you're going to give in a pink envelope, place that in a pink basket when you come around, and then whatever you give it in the gray envelope, place that in the gray envelope when you come around. So whatever you give it in the gray envelope, that's what we give for the upkeep of our church. Whatever you give in a pink basket, that's what we give in support of ministry for the going forth of the gospel. Gracious Father, we thank you now for this time of giving. And Father God, may what we give now prove to be pleasing and acceptable in your sight. Thank you for the opportunity to sow into the kingdom, to sow with our church, and then to sow with our teacher. Father God, we thank you so much. And we trust in you. No doubt, no waver, no instability. We trust that you're going to take what we give, multiply it, and then send it right back to us. Bless you now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, would you please stand?
Sometimes I wonder, is he faithful? Does he see me in my trouble? Does he understand? Sometimes I question if he's able. Can he rescue? Can he save me again and again? But when I look back, did he move every mountain? Did he part every sea? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Oh, did he defeat the darkness? Did he deliver me? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Oh, yes, he did. So yes, he can. 'Cause sometimes those voices try to tell me I'm forgotten and I'm falling too far from his hands. But I know what kind of God he is, and I'm trusting in his promises and believing.
All right, we got
and
two
I'm
certificates
singing.
that we want to present at this
Yes,
time.
he can.
We got two certificates, and man, looking at these certificates make me want to get baptized again. These are some good-looking certificates, man. I'm telling you. I am telling you, make me want to get baptized all over again. All right. Let's see. First baptized. What was this? I think second group. Second week, we had Mr. Brock Jackson. Is he in here? Where's he at? Come on, Brock. All right, bro. Come on. Let's get this picture real quick. All right, get this picture real quick. All right, bro. That be you, my brother. And then secondly, I think this was last week. Where's Tamara? Where is she? Come on. Look at the camera right there. All right, then, congratulations. And we've got a couple more, but they're not here today, so we'll do those when they get here. But let me say congratulations to Brock and Tamara. Congratulations to them. Look, let me ask you if you would you please be in prayer for the DeJeanette family? Sister Janice D. Jeanette left yesterday. Yesterday? I think yesterday. She left us yesterday. And so please be in prayer for her family. We don't have information just yet as to a day or time for the homegoing celebration, but please be in prayer for her family. A longtime member of Live Oak, and so if you would please lift them up in your prayers. And of course, in prayer for Sister Ella Lewis, whose sister we celebrated on last weekend. And then, of course, in prayer this week for Ms. Deborah Stevens, who's recuperating from some surgery. To ask if you would please be in prayer for them. And then, of course, Brother Larry Mitchell, who's rehabbing at home, and Sister Regina Runnels, who's rehabbing in nursing facility. Brother Eric Bridges, who's rehabbing at home. So please be in prayer for those on our prayer list. And then I think Sister Lewis is waiting in the wings to make an announcement. Okay, Sister Deborah Wafer. The mentee is in the wings waiting to make an announcement.
Good morning, Live Oak. First of all, I want to apologize for last week because I jumped the gun and said church anniversary. And I skipped all over our pastor anniversary. 26 years he's been standing up here giving us the word and giving us the text, how the text go. So he stands here, he don't waver, he stand in faith. So let's stand in faith for him and give him a wonderful 26th anniversary coming up in October. So let's all look out for our pastor and show him how much we appreciate him giving us the word, him staying in faith, and him never wavering when it comes to Live Oak Baptist Church. Thank you, Pastor.
And we're adding to that we're asking each member to share a gift of $106. This is the 26th year, so we threw in the extra $6. And next Sunday after church, we're asking Pastor Support Ministry to stay for just about 10 minutes after church next Sunday. As we move along in this anniversary, the one thing that we want to do is just reiterate what Sister Wafer had just said. Our pastor, we're celebrating God's gift to us. God's gift to us. So we stand here today to remind each of us our responsibility as a member and as one who is receiving the word. Thank you.
All right.
Pastor, can I say one other thing? We have two new eateries in District 1 that I'm excited about. You have not seen on Broadway, Macy's Hamburger, where the old Sonic used to be. And then if you go up 39th, we have a new hot dog restaurant. So we are excited about those two new places to eat here in District 1. Thanks. Bye.
All right, come on, let's get ready to go. Let's get ready to go. I think I'm about ready to get something to eat. I wish we'd had a brunch today. Huh? We got some announcements? Okay, give us some announcement then. Come on. Come on, where the announcements at? Backpack, we got how many? Where are they? All right, so they were donated by We Rock, and so they donated some backpacks to our little house. We do want to say thank you to We Rock, and then back to school blessings. Was that today? All right, thank you to everybody who donated toward that. That's it? All right, that's it. Come on, let's get ready to go. Let's get ready to go. I want to say thank you to our guests. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for stopping by. Anytime you're in the neighborhood, we'll certainly leave the light on for you. Come on, reach over and grab somebody's hand. Grab somebody's hand. Grab somebody's hand. Grab somebody's hand. Boy, this would have been a good day. It would have been a good day to have a brunch because I'm hungry. All right. Gracious Father, how we thank you because you've been so good to us. You've been so kind. And Lord, the hardest thing to do, Master, is to not get caught up in the winds of adversity. Because the winds are always blowing. The winds are constantly blowing, Master. Constantly blowing. So, Father, help us to be strong, to be steadfast, to be stable when the winds of adversity are blowing. James was writing to a church that was experiencing the same winds that we experience. So, Father, don't let us be lacking, not in our faith, but let us be sold out, completely all in our trust of you, our relying on you, our believing in you, because, Father, you did it for us before. We know you can do it again. Father God, thank you. Thank you for what you've already done. And then, Lord, we got to ask you, Father God, to be with Sister Dejanette's family. Lord, she's a long-time member, long-time believer. The recent difficult experiences that they've gone through. And now this, Master. No one knows the weeping heart and how much he can handle but you. So would you please be there to dry their tear-stained eyes? Would you please be there to lift them, help them to be strong in a time like this? Sister Regina Reynolds didn't see this coming. But Lord, would you help her in her movement, her strength? Brother Larry Mitchell, been down for a while. Could you give him strength, lift him up? Sister Deborah Stevens, Father God, nobody knows the heart the way you know it. So would you speak to her heart, strengthen her heart, Master? And then, Lord, we've got guests in the house today. Would you please speak to their need? Whatever their situation is, Master, you know it better than they do. What's behind them, what's in front of them, and what they're dealing with now, Master, you already know. So will you equip them for the journey, prepare them for the task? When the winds start to blow, Father God, let them stand strong, let them be firm, unmovable. And then, Lord, as we get ready to go from this place, Lord, don't let us leave your presence. Keep us hedged about. Keep us strong, keep us strengthened, Lord God. Keep us, Master. We don't know what's in the week, but we know who's in the week. And that's you, Master. So would you please be with us every step of the way. Be with us the rest of this day, Father. We leave this place, meet us at every stop sign, meet us at every stop light. Then, Father, at the end of the day, will you give us some resting grace? Would you cover us tonight when we lay down? You did it for Solomon. Now, Lord, would you please do it for us? Then, Father God, if it be your will in the morning, new mercies and grace on top of grace, how we bless you and how we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.